All right, so welcome back with Crew Call with the Scooters. And since we're shooting again during this green phase, we thought we'd bring in another shooter, a friend of ours, Tim Oxenreiter. You might know the last name if you're from Pittsburgh. We'll get into that a little later, but Tim is actually one of the relatives of one of our crew, Emily. So, a little family, friends and family moment here on Crew Call. So thanks so much for being with us today,
Yeah,
Tim.
thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So did you grow up in Pittsburgh?
I did, yeah. So I grew up in Upper St. Clair.
Okay. And did you start shooting when you were in high school or?
Actually, when I was in grade school, so it was always kind of a hobby for my friends and I. I think I got my first camera when I was in like sixth grade. And my friends and I would always make videos at recess and after school. So it kind of started as a hobby and then transitioned into a career, and here I am now.
Here you are now. So
Yep.
did your seeing your uncle on television, especially with sports, was that an influence where you're just like, what's, or is your dad or your mom in production at all?
So my dad was actually a communication major, and he studied to be in production.
Okay.
He ended up doing a completely different career. But seeing my uncle definitely did, help. I would go to the studio every once in a while and, watch him as I was a kid. So that definitely was a help. Yeah, it was just one of those things, as a kid, just playing around with the camera and really just started goofing off with my friends. And once I got into high school, kind of got more into editing and learned a little bit more about that, and then studied it in college. And yeah, just kind of trial and error, figuring things out on the fly, sink or swim, and here I am.
So when you were in grade school and then going into high school, what were you watching? Because so much of your content that you're probably absorbing was coming from YouTube. Uh,
Yep.
what were you watching? What was kind of exciting to you that you're like, oh, we could do that, especially because it's you and your friends. So I know there's a bunch of uh, guys out there doing a lot of the.
Yeah, there was one YouTube star, Jimmy Tatro. He was probably more when I was in high school and college, but he was one YouTube star that we really, took a liking to, and we would watch all of his videos and try to emulate some of the skits that he was doing. But really just all things viral, when I started getting into videos is kind of when YouTube started. So it was kind of this new thing, and we would go on and see all sorts of different viral videos, and we would always try to make our own, and never really happened, but we got lucky a few times, and it was fun doing it. And, I wouldn't trade those days for anything because it was a lot of fun.
Now, the same group of guys that you were in high school with, did you go to college with as well?
I did not, but we remained friends. We're still friends to this day, and they still actually help me out. None of them are in the production field,
Yeah.
but they're all very talented, and entertaining. So, if I need people to star in my videos, they'll help me out, and I'll have them on set every once in a while, move a light or do some sort of work to help me out. So it's nice, kind of come full circle.
It's always nice to have friends that don't feel bad about lending a hand too.
Yeah, no, they're awesome. They're a huge help. So I couldn't be more grateful.
So, where did you go to college?
So I went to St. Vincent College in Latrobe. I had two majors. I was a communication, media studies major, and then I also majored in graphic design. So for a while there, I kind of wasn't sure which avenue I wanted to go down. Um, but I'm glad I took the production route, and I still do a little bit of graphic design on the side as well. And it's nice, because the fields kind of complement each other. So it's nice to have a design background. That helps me, from a video editing standpoint. So, yeah, I went to St. Vincent College, graduated in 2016. And yeah, had a great experience there.
Has going in, there's a lot of competition in video production, especially coming right out of school. Was it easier for you, do you think, to navigate some of those waters with your uncle being an influence or a mentor to you to be able to think about some of those hurdles?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think, growing up, watching my uncle on TV and checking out the studio definitely made me familiar with the production process from a young age.
Mhm.
And, having him introduce me to certain people in the field that I could pick their brain. Yeah, that was a big help. But really, I think it was just doing it as a kid, and it always being a hobby. And I was never really the best student, but I think that's why I loved college so much, because I was passionate about what I was studying. It didn't really feel like I was going to class. Like, to me, going to class was fun, and it was an opportunity to learn new things. So I think all of those things combined just helped me out a lot.
So when did you start shooting on your own? When did that happen? Right after college, or did you go and get some experience, or how did that work?
It started like late high school. I think I started filming weddings, and maybe it was early college. The years kind of blend together. So I think it was early college actually. I started filming weddings, and I still do that to this day. But that's kind of when I really started getting into shooting. And
Mhm.
then after college, I had an internship with NFL Films, but I was on the production editing side of things, so I didn't really do a lot of shooting there. And then I went on to work at an advertising agency in Pittsburgh called 321 Blink.
Mhm.
Um, so I did a lot of shooting there, and that's kind of where I really, got most of my shooting skills.
What do you like about the production aspect, shooting or being more on the production side of editing? What do you like about it?
I like editing a lot just because there's so many, there's so many different avenues you could
Mhm.
go down. When you're shooting, it's kind of like, okay, you could be creative and you could film things certain ways, but when you're editing, the possibilities are endless. So I really enjoy the editing side of things. I do like filming a lot. Really into drone actually. I do a lot of drone work. I'm a licensed drone photographer, so that's always fun. It feels like you're playing a video game. It doesn't even feel like you're working when you're flying a drone. So I enjoy that, but really just the process in general, I'm a big fan of.
We have a client that got a drone for Christmas, and
Uh,
they took it up, and then it went the it went the wrong way, and it's somewhere in the forest out there
yeah,
having that conversation on a shoot, and I was laughing. We were just like, how does that happen? How
yeah,
do you lose
it's
equipment?
scary. Yeah, I actually the first drone I got, I lost in
Yeah.
a tree somewhere in Mount Washington by the Duquesne Incline. I mean, it happens. Fortunately, it was an inexpensive drone, and it was a good opportunity for me to learn and be more careful. But yeah, it's a challenge.
What do you think the hardest aspect of this business is for you right now? I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Shooting, we started shooting again last week. We have a large shoot coming up next week, and we have safety managers and we have everything mapped out. And for us, it's taking a lot more coordination and time because we want to make sure that our crew is safe. But what are you seeing on your side?
Yeah, I mean, I think the coordination is the big struggle and, obstacle because, fortunately we're still able to film, but it's challenging following all these guidelines and, kind
Mhm.
of adapting to the new normal. So, I just did a music video, I think it was like a month ago or so, and we wanted to have extras in it and all this stuff, but we couldn't do that. We kind of had to, move on our feet a little bit. But it does open up a chance for us to be more creative and think about new ways we can film things, and it's challenging, but it makes it fun to an extent, but it's definitely challenging.
I think there's an intensity. I think we were talking about that the other day because you're so focused on getting your shot log completed and taking care of the client at the same time. But then there's this other element of stress, especially when you're wearing masks all the
Yeah,
time and you're continually washing and wiping everything down.
yeah,
It's really hard. We were having a conversation yesterday about additional breaks
mhm,
in shooting,
right,
just to give the crew time to rest. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
mhm,
It's an arduous kind of moment right
yeah.
now.
smaller crew sizes too, which means you kind of have to pick up the slack of, those that aren't there. So the workload increases, and with all these guidelines and obstacles, it does make it, like you said, more challenging. Yeah, so
What are you still, I mean, with weddings really not happening, uh,
yeah.
how was that with your business? What are you seeing in terms of what might be coming up, or how wedding parties are dealing with?
Right. Yeah. So I filmed one wedding, which was a smaller. I think they had less than 75 people, and the people in attendance had to wear masks. So it was different. It was, weird to see. And then I had a lot of other weddings that actually got shifted to the fall. So my fall became a lot busier, but it's one of those things, I still don't know if those are going to happen. I had some clients who moved their weddings to 2021. So
Mhm.
it's one of, stuff changes every day. I'm just kind of along for the ride right now, and, being flexible and doing what I can do.
It is, I mean, it is interesting during this time because you really do need to be agile when you're thinking about, how to shoot and when to shoot and how to schedule things. Is what are you hearing in terms of your friends that are in the production industry as well? I mean, are you kind of thinking about other things? Do you think you'll go into design a little more? Are you looking into get into corporate?
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to do as much corporate work as possible. It's, some of my favorite stuff to do is corporate work. So, but it's also tough because I think a lot of these corporations have had their budgets cut.
Yeah.
So, the work is dwindling a little bit, but with things turning to green and opening more, hopefully that, picks up a little bit, but it's still too early to tell. But yeah, it's just one of those things. I think the whole field in general has just, have to be flexible and move on your feet. And yeah, it's a challenge, but we'll get through it.
What did you do? It's good that you have that positive attitude. Did it affect you at all during I mean, we were shut down for almost 2 months. What were you doing during that time? Were you like,
Yeah, there was a period, yeah, where I wasn't working, but the timing worked out because I just bought a house. So I've been working on that. So it's been a nice little quarantine project, but uh, I was definitely eager to get back to work. And fortunately, I've had a lot of work recently, now that things have turned to green. And although some weddings have moved
mhm.
on, I've had some inquiries about other projects. So hopefully things keep flowing. But yeah, it's just, stuff changes every day. It's so hard to predict these days.
It is hard to predict. What does your family say? Have you talked to your uncle about it in terms of the industry and what's happening on his side?
Yeah, so he was actually working from home. I helped him set up some lights in his basement. He has a really cool office downstairs, and I helped him set up lights so he could broadcast remotely. But they gave him a microphone, and then he was filming with his iPhone, which is crazy to think about how good, the iPhones are these days. So I guess that's one positive thing, to see how much technology has advanced. And, if this happened 15, 20 years ago, I don't know what the news stations would do.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been broadcasting from home, and I think he's still doing that. But yeah, he seems to be doing well.
What do you think? Have you been interested? You were talking about the iPhone just in terms of technology. Is there anything else that you have been using or playing with that you're like, this is kind of the next moment, except for Zoom because you didn't update it because we hadn't used it at
Okay.
all.
I usually
Yeah.
use Google Hangouts, so um, yeah, I mean, like I said, the iPhones, I know a lot of people are filming on iPhones these days, and they're great. They can shoot 4K, they can
Mhm.
shoot 120 frames per second. So I mean, I even shoot on that sometimes if I need a specific shot. So the iPhones are great. I think we were talking about drones earlier. I think that's one thing that's kind of changing the industry, because now you don't have to rent a helicopter to get a specific shot. You can take your small little drone and fly it and get gorgeous footage. So I think it's becoming, the technology is helping those folks who don't really have production experience
Mhm.
get great results, which is making it easier and harder for us as filmmakers.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think updates in technology are never a bad thing. So I think it's definitely helping us out.
Is it hard going to school and studying film and going into marketing, and then you have people that just kind of pick up a camera and do the same thing? Do you find that to be difficult at times?
Yes and no. I do find that, it is frustrating because you spend years studying how a camera works and about lighting and aperture and all that stuff. And then someone just picks out their iPhone from their pocket and gets great footage. So I mean, that part is a little frustrating, but I was always taught in school, it's more about the story and the content. So yes, you could have great looking footage, but if your video doesn't, give out the proper messaging that it's supposed to give out, or the story doesn't flow, or technically the edit's not correct, it's still not going to look as good as if it was professionally made. So it is frustrating, but at the same time, I think you still have to have the skill set to actually go out and execute that.
Yeah.
So I can live with it.
Yeah. Was any part of this difficult for you during this time? I know you're working on your house and stuff, but everybody was kind of going through that lull. It's even still now, I think, because Allegheny County, with the bars being shut down again and just the people not adhering to rules and
Yeah.
regulations.
Yeah, it was challenging. Like you said, the big thing was just managing and being mobile and figuring things out. A lot of the logistics would change every day. So from a scheduling standpoint, it was a logistical nightmare. But once the times I have been on set, you're right with wearing the masks and following the guidelines. But at the end of the day, I found myself just feeling like it was back to normal because I was on set, and it's been so long since I haven't been. So it was refreshing to finally get those moments, even though we were wearing a masks and following different guidelines.
Mhm.
So it was definitely a challenge, but it is what it is, I guess.
I love that so where do you get your optimism? Where does that come from?
Oh, I don't know. I want to call myself super optimistic, but I don't know.
Not your mom or your dad or
I mean, no, my parents are glass half full
are
kind of
they?
people, and I try to surround myself with those type of people. So I don't know. I wouldn't call myself super optimistic, but I'm glad that you think I am.
Well, it's good. I mean, we've had a lot of stories, I think, during this time about, um, the hardships, especially when production shut down. I think everybody was just having this moment, of like, what do we do now?
Yeah,
And
no,
as we go into the fall.
yeah, it's very stressful, and I mean it still is because we don't know what the future holds.
Yeah.
With things kind of looking like they're spiking again, and it's hard because you finally get to that moment where you're feel like you're back to normal and
Mhm.
working again, and then things are getting interrupted and things are changing. So yeah, it's tough. Like I said, things change every day, so it's hard to, especially with projects that are longer projects. I've had some jobs that are, you know, 1 week turnaround jobs, nice and easy, but some of the longer projects that take weeks to develop, yeah, it's tough to weather the storm. But yeah, it's a challenge.
It is a challenge. So,
Mm.
what are you doing in your free time besides painting and ripping out bathrooms, maybe, as whatever you're doing there at your new house?
Yeah, catching up on Netflix. I have a bad habit of watching The Office over and over again, so I've been doing that a lot of the time.
Mhm.
Just hanging out with my family. Yeah, really haven't been doing a whole lot of anything, to be honest, other than working on the house. So it's been relaxing, but there are days where I am craving, being on set and making a video.
Right. No, we
Yeah.
understand that.
Mm.
We completely understand that. What are you excited about for the next year coming up in terms of your business or what you want to pursue?
Yeah, so I've been getting into music videos a lot more, so I'm hoping
Okay.
to continue that and really pick up on that in the fall. I'd like to get some more corporate work under my belt. And then, yeah, do these weddings that I have in the fall. It would be nice to finally film some more weddings. So yeah, I mean, really just trying to grow the business and the brand as much as I can, and you know, ultimately just get back to having fun and doing what I'm passionate about because it feels like forever since we've been able to do that. But yeah.
If you had any advice for anybody getting into this field, going to college, or, there's a lot of people that are going to be graduating this year, and, what would you say to them about coming into production or video?
I would say don't be afraid to do the dirty work. It's all right to be a production assistant and carry things and help set up lights. It's one of it doesn't make you a bad videographer. Like, production assistants are still very creative people and they know what they're doing, but it's one of those things you just kind of have to pay your dues and work your way up. And I have another bad habit of never turning down work, which is good and bad.
Mhm.
Um, it's stressful, but never turn down work, and, put yourself out there and do as much as you can on the side, because you never know, what doors that's going to open. And ultimately it's going to make you a better videographer, by just, practicing. So I'd say, don't be embarrassed or ashamed to be a production assistant and do dirty work, because you're going to learn a lot from those who are ahead of you, and you'll eventually work your way up.
Let me ask this question. So, with a name, it's almost like a name like Schmuckers, the jam people, but a name like Oxenreiter. I mean, you have legacy here in the city, and so people probably look at you. Did you feel like you needed to work a little harder, or, I don't feel like you're pretty humble, which I think is really important in this field. I believe in that. You talk about getting dirty and doing the dirty work, but did you do a lot of that? Did you feel like you had to work a little harder? And did you take any work for free? You were just like, I'll do it. How was that
Yeah.
philosophy?
I don't think I really had to work any harder than, the person next to me. I think, I did a lot of stuff right after college for free, and I put in many years as a production assistant, which was tough, but I learned so much more. Coming out of college, you think you know everything, and you really don't. So it was definitely a humble. It was
It's
a
so
humble.
true. You should say that again and again and again, because it's
Yeah,
very
just put it
true.
on repeat.
Yeah.
So it was definitely humbling, and it made me a better videographer. And my uncle is he's in production, but it's more like news, whereas I do more corporate work, and I'm kind of more on the technical side of things rather than in front of the camera. So, I mean, people definitely recognize the name, but it's a little bit different. So I didn't feel as if I had to, do anything extra.
um, and when you talk about doing jobs and doing things for free, there's a work ethic that comes along with that. Were you brought up that way, that you have to pursue and be diligent about that? Was that a part of like the family creed?
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, my parents are both extremely hardworking. I wouldn't call myself that hardworking. To me, like, I love
Mhm.
making videos, so it doesn't even feel like work to me. Some of my friends will be like, "Oh, I don't know how you're out there filming till, midnight." And to me, it doesn't feel like work. So it may look like I'm a hard worker, which is cool because people might think I'm a hard worker, but I'm really not. I just enjoy what I'm doing and I feel passionate about it. So uh, I think that might give that illusion off, but I just do my.
That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do what you love, so it doesn't
Yep.
feel like
Yeah,
work.
my sisters always make fun of me because I had this sign in my room when I was a kid that said, "If you do a job you love, you'll never have to work a day in your life." And they made fun of me, but like that's how I feel. I feel like so many people get into fields and do jobs that they're not passionate about, and they live the rest of their life regretting it. So I was always, in college, I felt strongly about pursuing what I really wanted to pursue.
Is sports? Do you think you'll get back into sports at all? Is that anything? Because you had your internship at NFL Films.
Yeah, I mean, I loved working in sports. I love sports. So I would love to get back into sports. I also like having my own business though. So I like being able to pick and choose the projects I do. So I mean, never say never. Like I would love to work at a place like NFL Films, but it's one of those things where I don't know if I would do sports full time. But I do love, sports. So
No, I gotcha. I
yeah,
gotcha.
yeah,
The variety of work, I think, is
yeah,
important. It keeps you. You learn. I think you learn so much from shooting a wide variety of things,
yep,
and you can always use it in other aspects of what you're doing. So I agree with that. I totally
yep.
agree with that.
Hmm.
Well, Tim, I wish you the best of luck, and I thank you so much for being with us today on Crew Call. And I just wish you the best of everything. It's exciting to know that there's new production agencies coming up and showing something new in the industry, which is, and it's good that there's a market. I mean, Pittsburgh's a small market, but I feel like there's a lot of work for everybody. So that is exciting.
Yeah, and thank you so much for letting me chat with you guys.
Oh
I
yeah.
appreciate it. Yeah. And say hello to Emily for me.
I will. When she watches this, you
Yeah,
could
once you
say,
want. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
I absolutely will. Shoot, we were very lucky to get her right out of school. So
Mhm.
yeah, she's been fantastic. She's learned a lot, and she's doing a great job. So must run in your family.
Oh, I guess so. I
I
guess
think it does. I think it does.
so.
Well, thanks so much for being with us, and I hope we can meet you soon after all of this list.
Absolutely.
We'll
Yeah,
we'll get you on set.
we'll have to do that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that would be great. Well, thanks, Tim. I appreciate you. All
Thank you so much. Have a
right.
good night.
Thanks, you too.
All right. Bye-bye.